amount of their taxes until the appeal is resolved, and then if you owe additional money, you billed. If you do a refund, you receive it. So we do the very best we can. I apologize for the appeal not being processed timely. I would like to have them all resolved in 6-month period as well. But unfortunately, we simply don't have the resources to do it.
Yeah, I want to just add one last thing. I did have a line item in the budget. It got cut out by the Board of Commissioners. It was an easy cut when you're trying to reduce the budget. But it was an important line item, and it was for customer service. Now, I could have done it a different way. I could have just put an amount in each department and maybe kind of buried it that way. But I wanted to have a countywide customer service initiative, and I identified it, and I always try to be as transparent as I possibly can, and I identified it as such because I wanted not only the commissioners to know what they were voting on, but I wanted the public to know what was being proposed. And so if you're going to get good customer service, you got to train people. Got to give them good training on customer service, because people just don't automatically know how to deliver it. And we do have another type of customer service initiative to give our citizens an opportunity to give us immediate customer feedback. It's in a pilot stage now. And then we're going to use that feedback to evaluate our employees. And ultimately, what I want to get to is an incentive-based performance system. In other words, not the across-the-board merit increases that we used to get in county government, but where we actually pay people, not everybody, but at the end of the year, we offer some sort of pay incentive, a bonus, if you will, for our top-performing employees, because that's a motivation tool. If employees know that you're going to be evaluated based upon how you treat your customers, and at the end of the day, you're going to be competing with other employees to get some form of an incentive if you perform well, then I can guide the kind of behavior that you're expecting, and quite frankly, I'm expecting when I interface with a government or any business that's delivering services to me. So, again, I apologize that you had that experience, and thank you for your question. Yes, sir.
No extra charge for a second question, is there?
No, sir.
I think the people of Dunwoody deserve an answer on this one. About 5 or 7 years ago, your predecessor asked us to approve a bond, which supported, I don't know, to the tune of $300 million. But in selling that idea to the citizens of Dunwoody, $11 million was earmarked for Brook Run Park, and so far only $4 million has been spent. I'd like to know when we might be able to resolve this, because we, the citizens of Dunwoody, would like to have the $7 million.
Is that in litigation? Is that? I think that's an item in litigation, and I'm not quite sure. I mean, I don't know how much I can say about that. Let me tell you, sort of, and it's complex. Obviously, your citizens of Dunwoody and your citizens of DeKalb County, all citizens of DeKalb County are supporting the monies that were spent through the bond referendum. Those monies were targeted towards DeKalb County parks. Parks owned by DeKalb County is where how they were spent. Actually, there was discussion about that amount of money, but on the okay, well, you quote Vernon Jones, that's good if that's what you want to do, but this is what I've learned since becoming CEO, that on the referendum, we voted on projects, but we didn't vote on amounts of money for projects. And ultimately, the decisions about how much is going to be spent on any one project are decisions that are made by the Board of Commissioners. But I don't believe that there was a directive in the referendum itself, as I recall, that mandated there would be X amount of dollars for any one specific park. Now, a lot has changed since then. I think the park was transferred over from DeKalb County to the city of Dunwoody. That might matter to some people, it might not matter to other people. What was mandated is that that park would be improved by the referendum, and that park would be has been improved. But I don't want to be beholden to something that was made by some individual that, you know, wasn't contractually mandated, and especially somebody who was an elected official who's no longer in office. I mean, I don't know. I'd be more than happy to get with my law department and see if I can provide you with an answer. And Roy Wilson, can you get his name and let me see if I can do my best? I told you at the beginning I'd be as candid and honest and straightforward with you as I can. So I think I've given you the best answer I can give you on that. But let me, and it's been a while since I've looked at it, quite frankly. But from what I recall is that there were a number of projects without dollar amounts assigned to those projects. I don't remember how much has been spent in Brook Run. You might be right on that, $4 million. I was there when we opened the initial playground improvements, and since then the skate park was constructed. And so Roy can tell you what the plans are moving forward. Is that fair enough? Can you get with this gentleman? Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
And I am a realtor with the DeKalb Association. I'm also in their first Leadership Academy graduating class, which is going to be taking place this March, and it's for the real estate leaders of the future. So my question is,
Turn the mic up a little bit if you can.
Can you hear me now? Oh, like a Verizon commercial. You stated, or you shared, that there will be estimatedly 200 jobs generated in DeKalb from now by 2040?
I was talking about from the transportation referendum. The Atlanta Regional Commission has done an economic model analysis,
yes.
And I was at a meeting today, and what they tell us is there will be 200,000 jobs created or supported between now or from the passage of the referendum and 2040 if the regional transportation referendum passes.
Okay, well, my question is, should it pass, or if it passes, if you could definitively elaborate how, if at all, this will impact real estate sales, particularly in DeKalb County? Would that increase our sales? Because listening to some of the other questions, it sounds like the market is still spiraling downward. Do you foresee any change in the real estate market?
Gee, I mean, that's above my pay grade. And I mean, we've got economists that can't tell you what's going to happen with the real estate market, but I mean, I think one of the things that has caused the economy, I'm going to just give you my personal opinion, but I mean, you could talk to everybody in here and you might get a different opinion.
Yes.
But if people are working, then people are spending, and you know, as money is being spent, then commerce is moving along, and that has an impact on jump-starting the economy. I mean, I think one of the problems that we've seen in the economy, even at times when some people would tell you we're in a recovery now, I don't quite feel that in this job that we're in a recovery. But you know, you'll have one factor. Last week, unemployment, you know, began to fall, and but it's still over 8% nationally. The stock market was performing a little bit better last week. We just don't know what lies ahead. I mean, the markets are very volatile right now. If you, I don't know how long you've lived in Atlanta, but you know, up till about 2008, there was all kinds of construction going on in Atlanta. If you drive even through Buckhead right now, you just see, what do they call it, the crane graveyard or something like that? Is that, I mean, you just see the cranes just sitting there idly. So you're not seeing the construction going on. You're not seeing too many people out of work. You know, costs are rising. We've got to get people back to work, and one of the ways we can do that is when we have opportunities to rebuild our infrastructure. We have a national infrastructure problem. It's crumbling throughout the United States. DeKalb County is really ahead of the curve because we're not waiting for ours to start crumbling, but we do have aging infrastructure. A number of our pipes are over 25 years old, and some of them over 50 years old. And you know, as I say everywhere I go, I'm over 50 years old, so stuff starts to break down a little bit, okay? And so what we got to do is get in there now before we start seeing the impacts of it breaking down, and repair it and upgrade it. And that's what we're doing. But we're turning that around, and we're creating jobs locally right here. Now, the transportation referendum will be regionally, but, you know, what that'll mean is that people will be going out. They'll have less commute times. That'll be good for the quality of life, better, cleaner air, because they won't be sitting in traffic as long. So that's good for the environment. There'll be a number of roadway and transit projects. So that means people will be hired and doing the work. So it's an economic stimulus. It's a big jolt to the economy. But the main reason that we're improving transportation or proposing to do it for the region, you know, the side effects are, you know, more jobs and cleaner air, a better environment, but traffic congestion, reducing that traffic congestion that we're sitting in that's destroying our really destroying our quality of life is the main reason to vote for the transportation referendum. And of course, here in DeKalb County, as I mentioned, we're going to get about a 160%, I don't think I said this, return on our investment. No. In DeKalb County, we'll raise about $800 million through the penny sales tax, but about $1.3 billion in projects, mostly in transit projects, will be coming back here to DeKalb County.
And my only concern is...
So let's hope and pray that that's going to improve the real estate market.
Right, and my only concern is why I applaud the effort of wanting to increase or generate jobs. When we look at that up to 2040, that's about 30 years. That's only like 7,000 jobs a year. So that's why I'm concerned. And to me, that seems a little still bleak.
Well,
from where
you know, yeah, that might be so. I don't know at what rate all the jobs are going to come in. That's 28 years. 7 times 28 is 200. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you've got to look at about 34,000 of those, they say, will be in the construction industry. A number of high-end white-collar jobs as well. But if you look at the expansions of the Atlanta airport, if you look at the what we're doing with our One DeKalb Works program, I mean, I think all of these are efforts that combined will help to jumpstart the economy. But again, those are side effects. Those are ancillary benefits. The main reason that this is being proposed is not to jumpstart the economy, is because our quality of life is being impacted right here in the metro Atlanta area. Okay. If we don't do something about it, see, that money that we get is going to be leveraged. It's $8.5 billion raised here, but it's going to have, I think they said today, about a $13 billion really impact because of what we'll be able to leverage as a result of it. Okay. If not, we're going to lose that to other areas that are working in a concerted fashion and raising money on their own. Why? Because there's just not enough federal money like there used to be to go along, to go around. So we did very well on the stimulus package. I mentioned the $175 million we got in stimulus money, but there's not going to be another stimulus package like that for some time, you know, in the foreseeable future. I mentioned that we did very well today with some federal funding through ARC, but those opportunities are dwindling. They're only going to go to those cities and towns and region that are doing their own investment going forward. Okay.
All right, and then my next comment with regards to customer service. I'm really huge on customer service personally, and I find that a lot of companies that I'm interacting with on a business level are moving towards what's called a survey system that they have. So whenever you speak to a particular person in a business, that customer service representative is obligated to ask you if you want to participate in a survey. And what that survey is doing is increasing productivity and courtesy in terms of dealing with the customer. And it actually keeps the customer service representative aware of why they're there in the first place. And so if they're not performing, if they're not giving courteous performance, they don't have a job, because the survey that the customer is giving at that point in time is being recorded. The company gets to look at that data and determines the performance of that customer service representative.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm talking about, immediate customer feedback. Yes. Several months ago, I read an article in the Harvard Business Review about just that type of a system. Yes. I copied the article and I gave it to my senior managers. Some of them are here. Joe, you read it. Others read it. And then I began to talk to my COO about implementing it, and nothing really happened. And so, you know, I started to put my foot down and say, we're going to have this program. And so they said, well, we're going to roll it out. And then I insisted it be rolled out on a certain date, because a lot of times, you know, you have to have a certain impatience in this business in order to move things along. We got it rolled out in pilot areas. So every now and then, I just drop in on those areas unannounced. It's not on my calendar. I just go, and I went to one of those locations. I went up to the front desk. The lady recognized me at the front desk, and I said, well, where's the customer service counter? She didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay? And I said, well, when people come up here, are you inviting them to take the survey? She didn't know anything about that. I found it in a corner. It was in a corner where nobody is likely to go to after, you know, people are sitting there waiting, and by the time they get their service delivered, they're going to go home. I know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And the computer was down, so it was turned away. So what does that tell me? Number one, first of all, we can't just put it at the location where people get the service, but they also either have to get that phone call or they've got to get that email that pops up that says, you know, you visited the DeKalb County Department of X today. You know, please take a moment and tell us about what your customer service experience is. But also, we got to have training, and training takes money. So the difficulty I'm dealing with right now is if I put an allocation in a budget for training, because I've done it several times, the Board of Commissioners is going to take it out. Okay? I believe in training our employees. I mean, that's what I believe in. But every time I put it in my budget, and I've always done it in a transparent way, the Board of Commissioners is taking it out. So I get to propose a budget, but the final decision on budgeting comes from the Board of Commissioners, okay? So I'm with you, and I hear you, and I'm continuing to push that concept. But, you know, and I'm glad that we got at least one commissioner here tonight because they need to hear how important that is. I can put it in, but if it gets taken out, I don't have the money to train. Is it a real problem, Chief? I mean, you got to have resources to train your people. Am I right? Okay. So that's where we are. Thank you very much. And congratulations again. I'm sorry, sir? Well, yeah, yes, they do. But again, excuse me? I am bearing down on him, sir. And I want you to know we're getting about as much as is humanly possible out of most of these men and women. I mean, they're professionals. We've made some significant hires over the last year. Planning director, watershed management director, introduce you to our new economic development director. These people are highly credentialed and have got years of experience. But there comes a point where resources do matter. And you've been a manager? You manage people? Okay. Okay. Well, I'm just saying that there's good managers can do much with little, but there comes a point where resources do matter. Yes, but thank you. That's important. Yes, sir. We got about 5 minutes.
I have several questions that I think would be easy to answer. On the referendum on transportation, does every county have to pass it to make it pass, or if DeKalb doesn't and Gwinnett does, or vice versa?
It has to pass as a whole in the 10-county region. Okay. Again, there are 12 regions in the state, and each region has their own referendum. Mm-hmm. The region will be voted on will be a regional transportation referendum in a 10-county area. So it will be dictated by the majority of voters in the 10-county region. It could technically lose one county, but pass by enough of a margin in the other counties, and it would be imposed over all the counties. So even if DeKalb voted it down, if it passed, it would still be imposed on DeKalb County as part of the region. Right, and the projects would still come to DeKalb County as part of the region.
On the soapbox track.
If the county votes it down, there's a penalty when you go to get your, the regional transportation funds. So there is a penalty associated on getting some of our regional funding, but the penny sales tax still goes into effect. So thank you for reminding me of that.
On the soapbox derby track, has that money been funded? I mean, have we got
the money is coming from our Parks Bond Transportation. Parks Bond Transportation. We had a referendum for parks and transportation and libraries, which passed, I believe, in 2005, and then we borrowed the money in 2006. So that money that is set aside for transportation, a part of it was allocated. This is a project that we've been working on at least for 4 years, since 2008. We've purchased some land with that money. It was part of an exchange of, excuse me, did I say transportation? Excuse me, parks bond money. We purchased land with the money. We did a trade-off where we're building a YMCA at one site in exchange for a property at another site. We've identified the location, we've done the design work, and what remains to be done is the construction.
I don't.
But here, I think this is what, and I'm assuming this is where you're headed. That money has to be used for parks and recreation uses. It can't be used to for some other county purpose.
Well, now, if that Derby track is built and is not successful, who's liable for it? Will the county have to pick up?
Well, I mean, it's like anything else we do. We built a skate park right here in Dunwoody. I didn't hear one person say, what's the business plan for a skate park? What happens if the skate park is not successful? I think there was an assumption that kids want to do it for the skate park. But let me tell you, we have more than assumptions for a soapbox derby park. We have projections from the two existing soapbox derby associations. They want to locate their activities here. We also have an opportunity to bring in regional activities and interstate, in other words, not just from Atlanta or the Atlanta metro area, not just from the state of Georgia, but also from other states like Florida and Tennessee and South Carolina and North Carolina, because we will be a regional attraction. It will be a modern track in a very nice venue between rock outcroppings located right here in DeKalb County. That means revenue will be generated in DeKalb County. People will stay out of hotels. People will spend in the stores when they're here. But the most important thing is we're doing something for our kids. We built 2 new rec centers over the last 2 years. We're building a YMCA. We've improved a number of parks and trails for our citizens, but particularly for our children. I haven't heard one person ask what happens if it fails on any other parks project, because we're doing it to improve the quality of life and for the children. So this is a teaching and a learning opportunity, and it's going to be a success because we've got groups there right now wanting to come to DeKalb County and do it. There's a race right here in Dunwoody every year. I've been to the race behind First Baptist Church, about 450, 500 feet of racing space. They let me ride down the hill one year because I was the CEO, and they let the mayor, Ken Wright was the mayor at the time. He rode down, I rode down. I mean, the track is so slow, you can't even have a good competitive race. DeKalb County at one time was a hotbed of soapbox derby racing. We sent national champions to the national finals who came back with college scholarships and then were important contributors in this community.
Okay.
We don't have a facility right now where we can do that, you see. So it's just a wonderful opportunity. The real result is it's for the kids.
Okay.
It's for kids.
One more quick one.
Yes, sir.
Some counties, when you reach a certain age, you don't have to pay the school tax on you know. And I have reached that age plus. And is there anything that in the works in order to, when you reach 75, 80 or something?
I don't believe that's the law in the state of Georgia at all. And we've often get asked about whether we can exempt certain people, particularly seniors, from having to pay school taxes. Of course, we don't impose school taxes. I want you to know that that's done by the school system. But all of that is constitutionally mandated under it's Georgia law. And there have been a number of county commissioners. Almost every time we get a new commissioner elected to the board, they begin to investigate that question, and we just can't do it. So yeah, our hands are tied. I don't think it can be done in Georgia at all. Does anybody know? Joel, do you know?
But it's based on income also. But in some counties, once you reach that age, regardless of your income, you're exempt.
You want to say that? Why don't you say that on the mic? Calvin, you want to say that on the mic? It sounds like he's correcting me to some degree.
We currently have a school exemption for the elderly as long as their income is below a certain threshold.
And that's in DeKalb County.
That's in DeKalb County now. But I believe what the gentleman is referring to is the ability to have a school exemption once you pass an age, regardless of your financial standing. Yes. And that is available in some jurisdictions. Typically, the voters have to vote it in. Somebody proposes and it has to be voted in because that has a physical impact.
I learned something tonight. Thank you for your question. Okay, I'll take one last question, and then we're actually past time, so you get the last question. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll give you. I didn't see. I'll give you both the last question. He'll get it, and then you'll get it. Okay.
First of all, I want to commend you for holding these town hall meetings, and I appreciate all the department heads being here. I'm surprised to see that there's not many more people here than there is. So I commend you for having these meetings all throughout the county.
Can you talk a little louder? They can't hear you.
I was saying that I appreciate him holding these town hall meetings, and I appreciate all the department heads being here to answer your questions. I'm surprised that not many more people are here. I have two questions for you. I can appreciate the county having budget problems and having to do cuts, but I want to get a commitment from you that you won't cut the public safety department, meaning the DeKalb County Police Department. They do a fine job, and I hate to see their budget being cut. They're under stress. Their budget actually needs to go up. They need to hire more police, and I want to hear a commitment from you that you won't cut the budget for the DeKalb Police Department. Will you do that?
What's your second question? Let me hear your second question.
Okay. My second question doesn't have to deal with that. It has to deal with the GM plant, and I want to get an update. I came in a little late, so I don't know if you'd addressed this already, but I'd like to get an update on the GM plant and what the county is doing with redeveloping that property. It's prime property here in DeKalb County. I think it'd be a huge asset to this area of the county, and I don't see any progress being made there.
Councilman, he's going to probably get the last question tonight because it's a long question and we're over. I'll do my best. Keep the answer short. Okay. All right. This is the best answer I can give you about public safety. It is a high priority for me. I am giving full support to our public safety department. I can't lock myself in and tell you that there will never be a cut because we're driven by our revenue. I mean, we're revenue driven, quite frankly. We can't spend more than we bring in, and we are losing revenue. And our costs go up and our revenue go down. And unless we have a tax increase somewhere along the lines, if that pattern continues, I've got to propose cuts. Now, I don't always propose the cuts that get imposed, okay? Again, I propose a budget, and the Board of Commissioners adopts the budget. Last year, they adopted what I thought were draconian across-the-board cuts. I opposed it. Ultimately, the board agreed with me. The majority members of the board agreed with me, not all of them. So by the slimmest of margin, 4-3, we were able to go ahead and get a sustainable budget adopted that funded our police department, but they had the police department cut so low, I mean, it was going to impact their service delivery as well as other departments. So I can't, number one, promise you that any department will never be cut because I don't have the final say-so on it. The Board of Commissioners does. And in all honesty, I support police and I believe in a sustainable budget, and I don't mind making the difficult call and going out and telling the citizens why I made the call and did the things I did. I have no problem with that. I mean, that's my job, and I do that. And I understand the importance of public safety, and they're always going to be at the top of my priority list. But I don't know what the future holds in terms of what's going to happen with this real estate market and what our revenues are going to look like. But I can tell you this, they deserve much more than they're getting right now. And what I would implore you to do, because we've got a tight budget, I've asked my folks to hold the last year's spending levels, but costs have gone up. That means really less money available to operate their department. I'm not just talking about police, but across the board. And the Board of Commissioners is talking about at least the Budget Committee. You got to remember the Budget Committee here tonight. So the Board of Commissioners is talking about cutting the budget that I presented to them. Cutting for what? Okay? So I hear you. Make sure you, and I hear you loud and clear. I'm with you. Make sure that they hear you also. GM, we proposed a plan to the Board of Commissioners to use some of that recovery zone bond funding money that would have had to be paid back but subsidized by 45% of it would have been reduced by the federal government. It was a good return on investment. It would have moved that. We would be redeveloping that GM plant right now. It was voted down by the Board of Commissioners, unfortunately, but we're not giving up. And so we are meeting with developers. The problem, the impediment right now is that that property is owned by General Motors and they want X amount for it. There are a number of developers out there that are making bids on it. Nobody is able to get the financing to give GM what they want. So right now it still sits there owned by GM, but we're having a number of conversations with them. They let us do an international festival hosted by Commissioner Stan Watson last year, and we showcased what could be done on that site. They are negotiating now and starting to show some movement on the price. I've invited the automobile czar. The White House has an automobile czar. He'll be with us later this month. March the 14th, next month. And so that we can make sure that we're engaging the White House. We've invited our United States senators and our representatives to join us in that meeting so that we can assert political pressure along with you know, good business partners and good common sense. And before we got the folks GM at the table, we've not given up. You're right, it is the most, in the words of Mr. Arthur Blank, it's the most attractive piece of real estate in the southeastern United States. We're not going to give up. We're going to get that property redeveloped, and we're going to create jobs in the process. So thank you. Councilman, you have the last question.
I was just going to sing a song or two, if you don't mind, CEO Ellis. A couple things. Number one, I echo, let me hold the mic. I do better when I walk around. Moving target. I echo the statement over here. Thank you for coming out here. Number two, we want to thank you. Bill Tobin is right back here, that gentleman right there, and he and Jim Oy run what we call the Clean Fix and Shine Up Dunwoody, the Dunwoody Volunteer Coordination Committee. And I don't know if Ted Reinhardt's here tonight or not.
No,
but
this is the one meeting that Ted had another commitment and couldn't be here for.
Well, from the sanitation standpoint, you know, we find all this junk all around town, and great support picking that up. We appreciate that. My question is, and I want to go back to the parks, what Mr. Brandt brought up here a minute ago. It is in litigation. I can't comment on it. You can't comment on it. But my question is, does the county have a, if you will, contingency fund? Does it have a reserve legal fund in the event that we prevail in that case to pay the money to the city of Dunwoody?
I don't know if I can comment on that, so I'm going to defer that. The county attorney is not here. Let me talk to her, and if I can, I'll have that conversation with you offline.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I can't take any more questions tonight because we've gone 10 minutes over. I will stay around for a few minutes and answer any individual questions. You all have been a very delightful and respectful and polite audience. Thank you for all you do to make DeKalb County a great place to live, work, and play. Have a good night, everybody.